Good morning, Illini. Welcome back. I'm your host, Matt Schrock, here for Healthy Illini, and we're glad you're with us. I'm really excited for today's episode. We have a really unique opportunity just because of timing of things, and so I don't want to spend a lot of time on the intro. I want to jump right into it, but we're glad you're here. We're grateful that you're with us, and you really picked a great episode to listen to today. I have three guests today, and we're talking about really the focus here on campus. The connection is the Illini Wheelchair and Scooter Clinic, but what we're talking about is the Paralympic Games in Paris in a lot of ways, because we have one of the competitors, a medal winner actually, who is with us, and that's Susanna Scaroni. She is a member of the National Wheelchair Racing Team. She's a four-time Paralympian. She's an alum of the University of Illinois and has just come back from winning some medals in Paris. So Susanna, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's awesome to be here.
And we have a return guest, which I love to say in our time of since we started in 2021. We have a return guest on this, and that's Dr. Laura Rice. She's an associate professor with the Department of Health and Kinesiology, but she's also the director and a physical therapist with the Illini Wheelchair and Scooter Clinic. And if you want to hear the other episode she was on, she was also talking about the clinic back on episode 58, almost 2 years ago in December 22. So be sure to check that one out. But Dr. Rice, thank you for joining us again.
Thank you so much. Very glad to be here.
And then our third member of our guests is Christina Romero. She's an intern with the Illini Wheelchair and Scooter Clinic. She's here in her master's program, and so Christina, thank you for joining us also.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So I love when passions of mine intersect when I'm on the program. I love every episode we do. I learn something new. I enjoy the conversations, but when it's something that I'm really passionate about, it's always a lot of fun. And I am proud to be part of the University of Illinois. I've worked here at McKinley for almost 9 years. I'm proud of the resources and the health tools and wellness tools we have on this campus. But I am also, if you talk to me for 5 minutes, you'll know I'm a huge sports fan, and especially Illini sports. Don't care what it is. I'm always captivated by the drama and the artistry that sports bring. It's just unscripted and authentic and dynamic, and I really love watching that unfold in real time. And I just remember growing up watching the Olympic Games so much, and now that there be more access to Paralympic Games as well. And so every time that comes on my family, when I was growing up, and now with me and my kids, we watch constantly. We watch we don't even care what it is. And I always laugh because by the end of each event, I act like I'm an expert in it. I started watching 30 minutes ago, but now I'm like, hey, they're moving like this and they're doing that. And that's a good point, and all these things. And so I love the competition of it, and I love learning about it. And so I was really excited when I found out Susanna was going to be part of our program, and we were going to be able to record right after the Paris Games. And then even more excited when I watched the Paris Games and found out that Susanna did very well. So congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
On your medals and your representation and just all the achievements that you had in that. But I want to talk about the games a little bit with you. We want to start there. This was your fourth Paralympic Games. And so you have a lot of experience in the sport. You have a lot of experience in the international competitions. But before we get to that directly, what made you choose to pursue competing in the Paralympics? What was it that said, you know what, I'm going to go this avenue, and I really want to try and see how I can push myself?
Yeah, so for me, I grew up in a small, tiny community in Eastern Washington, and within a family that's very into being outdoors, being active. We grew up being out in the woods or canoeing on lakes all of my childhood. And when I was injured at the age of 5, nothing really changed from that. I just had to learn different ways to do them. So got back into my small town. I was accepted right away, integrated into my classmates' activities, so much so that I was rolling down the hills with them at our kindergarten practice, which then meant I had to learn how to get back into my wheelchair from the ground from a young age. And I think because of just that love of being active, I went into sport because in our small town, sport is really big, and it's the activity that we started doing in 3rd grade. But that was really the first time that I sort of had some negative experiences, I guess, of being a person with a disability. And I was the slowest down the court. There was all these rules to at least give me the ball once before we could shoot. And I just was like, I cannot do this again. This is terrible. My wheelchair makes me slow and everyone has to wait for me. And so that was when I vowed to never do sports. And so then the next year, actually, I learned about wheelchair basketball. And I wasn't going to go. I was like, no, Mom, I'm not doing that again. But my mom was like, yes, you are. And so really I got to that first practice just expecting it to be terrible. But what I found out, and this is a memory I still have, is I was finally doing what I had wanted to do the year before. I was playing basketball. We were working on dribbling, working on passing, pushing lines around the court, and nothing had to do with my wheelchair. Everybody was in a wheelchair. And from that point on, I realized there was a possibility for me to do sport like all of my classmates were doing, and to do it on an even playing field. And so from there, I think the juxtaposition of those 2 years really fueled a fire in me to be so appreciative of adaptive sports. So much so that when we finished the basketball season that year when I was in 4th grade, they said wheelchair track would be starting in the spring, and I had no idea what that would look like. But I begged my mom, I was like, can we please go to that also? And as I grew up, I loved both sports, but I ended up going to another college in Montana after I graduated from high school. And because of that, there was no wheelchair basketball team there, but there's always an open road. And so I brought my racing chair with me, and just because I love exercising, I love training, I was still training just on my own in Montana. And so 2 years after that, when I got a call from the University of Illinois wheelchair racing coach asking me if I was still interested in coming here, and that there was going to be an out-of-state tuition waiver, as well as an in-state tuition waiver with an athletics scholarship. I had no barriers financially to coming anymore. And even honestly at that point, I wasn't sure. I was like, well, I don't know. I love my life here in Montana. I'm still very active. But all of my mentors and friends were like, Susanna, you do this every day by yourself. Like, why would you not go join a team? And so kind of like with their encouragement, I ended up transferring to the U of I for the opportunity to train with amazing wheelchair racers underneath and with our amazing coach, Adam Blakeney. He was training with us at that time, too, in 2011. And really what fueled me then is the same that was before me getting here as well as now. It's just a love of training. And so really I had no clear goals of going to the Paralympic Games. I just love it. And once I got here, I had already finished a lot of my hard classes, and I got to also have a little bit lighter class load and be with some amazing wheelchair racers. And train. Like, I was in the perfect environment to thrive, and I feel just as excited today as I did back then. But I will say, 13 years later, my career has, in my environment here at the U of I, and my racing experiences all over the world, have enabled me to really love the racing part too. So I think something that's changed for me over the course of my 4 games is that I went from just appreciating wheelchair sports, loving them, and now I have an extra love of the actual racing part, the drama and you never know what can happen. You just have to kind of be ready to react in that moment. I love that part, and Paris was one of my favorite experiences, I think, of racing just because of how fun it was.
So let's talk about Paris for a minute, because you competed in 4 races, I believe.
Yes.
The 800, the 1500, 5000, and the marathon.
Yes.
I don't do distance anything, so I'm impressed by that to start off. But you ended up getting 4 medals in Paris, which is fantastic.
Thank you.
Cannot say that enough. But you got your first medal in the marathon that you had gotten. So what was that feel like to have that new experience? This is your 4th games, but you're still getting new experiences as you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of goes back, the racing, I think the actual competition and racing enjoyment for me has grown out of, and higher abilities. So now I still love to work hard. That's never been a problem for me. But because of all the years I've been at the U of I now have more skills to use. So I've got the ability to get to a higher top speed, which is huge in our sport. I'm a lot better at being able to read racing situations, whether that's the marathon, so knowing technical points that I can maybe pass somebody on a corner, for example, or on an uphill. All these things that I have been learning about myself and learning about my competitors over the last 13 years, and that's helped me to do different things in the marathon that I could have done back in 2012.
You mentioned the last 13 years in competitors. And for one, I really loved reading about how you were happy for, I think it was Madison DeRosio, and a competitor who got silver and you got bronze, and you were like, I'm so happy she got silver. I love that camaraderie and that kind of thing. But you also talked about over the last 13 years, since your first Olympic Games, how the group has changed, or the competitors have changed, that women, this was their first course, and you're kind of the veteran now, and you're the veteran coming in, but you've seen the sport grow, and you've seen some of the interest and some of the accessibility and the support grow as well. Can you talk about how that's kind of, what that's been like on that journey?
Absolutely. Yeah. So for me specifically, I kind of started the sport at a higher level in 2011 when I entered the U of I. And at that point, I was using a hand-me-down chair with our program, which is awesome to have. In our sport, the way that your racing chair fits you is so customized that you can actually make those sudden moment reactions in a race. You know how you're going to go down a hill. You know how you're going to turn and go up hills. But really, that's a function of how well you can fit in your equipment. And that specific journey has not only evolved for me as I've learned what the best chair position is for me, so I can make those small changes that are actually super vital for an athlete at this point in my career. Because once you get to where I'm at, there's very little things you can change to make a significant impact, but you can still a little bit with all the variables that we have in an equipment-based sport. So figuring out what my best seating position is, and then having the resources to be able to purchase equipment like that has been another change. So as we have more interest in wheelchair sports, and a lot of that's been driven by the Abbott World Marathon Major Series, broadcasting the wheelchair marathon, having equal bonus prize money for wheelchair marathoners. All of that support has really helped sponsors be more interested in designing racing chairs, and also looking at athletes who do wheelchair marathon to help us get those. Specifically, I have been fortunate to work with Honda, and they've been able to design a racing chair that fits me and use their resources to improve mobility, which is one thing that Honda is interested in. And it's really led to not just me, but our whole field at large get so much faster. And it's crazy to believe the times that we're reaching right now compared to when I started. And I think part of that has really been the interest and support and how that's driven technology to kind of embrace our sport more.
Well, and there's an aspect of it doesn't increase the technology of the chair itself, but as the chairs get better, you're able to train better your body better, because you're not having to compensate for certain things. If a chair's moving quickly and it has less wind drag and things like that, you're not having to exert as much effort, so now you can focus on something else, and so it goes hand in hand. And those opportunities are huge for any sport, and especially for anything wheelchair related. I want to come back and talk about the chairs and kind of the fit and that kind of a thing. That's where I want to bring in the wheelchair clinic a little bit. Before we get there, I have a question.
Yes.
And this is a question for any athlete who does a marathon ever. I was watching the Olympic Games and the Paralympic Games. You did the marathon, and you went through some amazing historical places and some amazing views. Did you notice it all?
I love that question. And to be honest, there was one view that I did get to, actually two views at this race, which is pretty unusual, that I got to notice. And that was the Arc de Triomphe, because we were within about, it was right at the middle of a 3-mile cobblestone section. And it was uphill to the arch. So we were going slow. And I was looking up and I was like, thank goodness we're almost there, because then we're turning around and going back down these cobblestones. Right. And so the function of my slowness, my excitement to be going around it, to turn around, allowed me a lot of time to really, it's beautiful. I love the Arc de Triomphe. And then, honestly, we finished at an incredible museum. And because, again, it was this long stretch that I was so excited to see the finish line, I was pretty toasted at that point after those cobblestones. I got a lot of good viewing of that part, too. But normally, I don't get to see anything.
Well, that's the thing, because you're so focused in on your race. And so, the competition is so good. Split seconds here and there can make such a huge difference. I was curious, because I watched it from home going, oh, look at that view. Oh, look at this view. And I thought, that was my question. I was like, did you even notice?
It's a great question. Yeah.
Were you able to enjoy your time in Paris as like not when you're racing, just were you able to take a moment and be like, this is really cool, I'm in Paris doing this, or was it so much focus on this is such a high level, I've got to stay locked in on this? What was that balance for you?
Great question as well. I think for me, I've sort of always been this way, but even more so now. This was my 4th games. I think my perspective has gotten a little bit higher to where I am so excited to be there. Anything can happen in a race. I'm grateful that my entire career isn't banking on Paris, and so I try to keep that as my mindset, that I hope it's my best 800 meter, but I'm okay if something happens. It's just an 800 meter. And so I did try to enjoy every moment while I was there. I also know how fast the Paralympics go by. And so that was in my mind too. I was like, I am going to enjoy this day. I ended up getting COVID while I was there. So honestly, I wasn't feeling amazing. But even during that, I was like, I am going to enjoy this because this is an opportunity to get to be at the Paralympic Games. I love where I live, but this is a chance to try something out that's different. And I had an amazing experience.
And I know you love different types of food and really appreciate different types of food. Were you able to, after your races were done, like enjoy some good French cuisine?
Even beforehand. Oh, yeah. So there was a bakery in the village. So every morning for breakfast, I went to the bakery, got a few pieces of this amazing soda bread that was hot still, put either jam or Nutella on it, and it was a great racing fuel. And it was delicious. So
I'm glad to hear
good
that.
Question.
Highly jealous, but glad to hear that.
Oh, and there was a food truck that every single day had a different Michelin-rated chef come in, and they would make 300 of these amazing little tapas, and then they were done. So as long as you got there in time, they were incredible.
That's great. I might have to pick your brain about places to go, and it's on the bucket list to visit.
So something what you're talking about, you said it goes so fast, and you had an opportunity, and not everything was banking on this race. That's the privilege and the good side of experience, and your time served is not your first time. You're not feeling all that pressure, all that I got to perform, I got here now, that kind of thing, and so. Along with that, with your experience, with your history and your understanding of things, that's where I want to take what happened, what you did in Paris and your journey there, and take that conversation from this highest level of competition and relate it back to our community here. Because like you said, you love living here, but it's not the same as what you did in Paris, right? Yeah. So you can bring it back here, because my hope is that there are listeners here that are that all our listeners are inspired by what your journey was, but especially those that might be thinking, hey, I might want to get into some sort of para athlete sport, some sort of wheelchair sport, but I don't know what to do, and I don't know really how to approach it. I don't even know what to think about. And so I want to take that experience that you have and that comfort you have and that ability to speak to it and draw that to this program here, and then maybe inspire somebody who's listening on that. So with that, I want to start with the equipment. Okay. Would you talk a little bit, and this is where Dr. Rice and Christina, you're welcome to jump in because you're with the Illini Wheelchair Scooter Clinic. Actually, let's backtrack for a second before we get to that question. Would you share what the clinic is, just as a quick refresher?
Sure.
Of if somebody's listening and they don't know what that means, what you offer and that sort of thing.
Sure. Yeah. So we're a very small clinic. We are located at Freer Hall, so very, very close to McKinley. We are a very small clinic that focuses on helping people to get the type of equipment, mobility equipment, to help them achieve their individual goals. So I primarily see individuals who use wheelchairs, some either power wheelchairs or manual wheelchairs, some people who utilize scooters. And I see students and then also members around central Illinois. But we help them get to the type of equipment so that they can engage in their community, go to school, go to work, do all the things they need to do to be good members of society.
So we're talking today about athletics, but when we talk about the scooter clinic, we're not just talking racing chairs. We're talking, daily use chairs and things like that. Would you share a little bit about, and anybody can jump in, share a little bit about what the difference might be or how you approach the difference of finding the right chair for somebody in both those environments?
Sure. So we actually don't do any of the sports chairs. Okay. So the coaches are, so Adam, the basketball coaches, they're amazing. They that's their jam. I'm going to stay in my lane. But I help people to get their everyday chair. So something they would use, kind of a daily basis, going to class, going to work, things like that. And I think a really important approach that we take at the clinic is that it is very much a client-driven decision. So we spend a lot of time, and Christina over the summer, she actually did a lot of work to enhance the client experience. We spend a lot of time asking people, so what do you like to do? Are you somebody who likes to be outdoors a lot? Where do you need to use the wheelchair? Where do you want to use the wheelchair? We really help to get to know the person and to be able to make sure whatever mobility device that we choose as a group fits their needs functionally. I also want to make sure that if they have any health conditions, that the device will also make sure that they can stay as healthy as they can possibly be. So we focus on everyday chairs, and it's very much a kind of community effort of making that decision of what type of device is best for the individual.
Yeah, Dr. Rice did an incredible job just being able to shadow her throughout the summer, just even making the slightest chair detailing as needed. You wouldn't think just even the height of the chair just makes a vast, incredible difference of, just suiting mobility needs for anyone who needs it and who's looking to have it tailored to their lifestyle.
And that's a big part of it is the tailoring it to the lifestyle, because you can't come in and say, well, this is the optimum height, because it depends on the person, it depends on what they're doing, and it depends on their setting and things like that. It makes a huge difference on that. And so turn back to Susanna for a moment. So would you describe a little bit, as a wheelchair user, what the mindset between I'm looking for a chair I'm going to use every day versus a chair that I'm going to race in? What are the things that you're really cognizant of in your own experience?
Yeah, well, first of all, both of those are some of the most important things in my life. Right. And they are highly nuanced. And so, they nailed it with things that they said, including chair height. When you can't fit under any table that you go to, it can be frustrating, and it can impact your ability to live the quality of life that you want. Also, if it's too tall and you can't get into it from the ground, if that's something you're familiar with doing, or even as you age are worried about, having somebody being aware of that and being able to empower clients to know those things is life-changing. I've evolved my daily use chairs as I've gotten older, and I've had to adjust different types of things like my hand rings in order to prevent injuries that I've gotten. I think as I've gotten older, I realize how repetitively I do things in my daily chair, and I have similar things that I repetitively do in my racing chair. Both of the nature of those have led to injuries that I've had, and have taught me I needed to be more aware of how I designed the chair in order to avoid those. And so to be as active, to push wherever I want to go, whether that's over a course of a marathon or whether it's pushing to Art Mart, which I used to do every single day from campus, I have needed the equipment to fit me well, so that I can do those repetitive motions and be healthy.
And I do think that's one significant advantage of our clinic here on campus, is that we do have the ability to really work with the individual. A larger hospital clinic, often they're very structured of when people can come in, and a lot of limitations that we don't face here. If somebody is gets a chair and they start using it and something's not right, they can more easily come back to me and we can say, okay, well, let's just tweak this and if, just swing by my office in 2 days and, let me know how it's going. We don't need, this formal appointment that we need to do. And so there's a lot more give and take with talking about those things. We try our best to get the chair as perfect as possible, but there's always things that comes up. Maybe we did make it a little too high. Sometimes that's hard to fix, but sometimes we can adjust the cushion or something like that. So I think we have the ability to make kind of fine-tune those adjustments a lot more easily versus maybe a larger clinic.
And so if somebody is listening and they do want to reach out, or they're like, I just have some questions, how do they get a hold of the scooter clinic? What's the best way to get in touch with you guys?
Probably best through email. It's listed on the Illini Wheelchair and Scooter Clinic Facebook and Instagram and website page. Usually by email or just kind of by word of mouth. We're located at Freer Hall in room 286 on the second floor. So if you just kind of walk through, Freer Hall can be a little bit of a maze. So anyone would be willing to direct you, and Dr. Rice would either be there or just kind of reachable by email. So, and we'd be happy to share that right after today.
Christina did a lot of work this summer working on our website and also our social media as well to make it more engaging for our clients, and making sure that Freer Hall is definitely a maze. So she worked really hard to develop some really nice instructions so people can easily get to the clinic and engage with it. Yeah, Suzanne spent a lot of time at Freer.
The University of Illinois is known as an excellent university. We should be known for our amazing buildings. Every building has some issues there. But we will list the email in our bios. If you're listening and you want to get in contact with them, you can click on the bio for this episode, and it'll be listed there, so you can follow up on that pretty easily. So I want to turn to the other side with Susanna. If somebody's listening and they say, you know what, I want to get involved in wheelchair sports, this campus is great for it in a lot of ways, but how do they start? What questions should they ask? Where should they go to get involved in that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would encourage everyone, if you are thinking like, I don't know if wheelchair sport is for me or adaptive sport, I can tell you it's for you. And everybody adapts it a little bit differently. Even in wheelchair racing, there's a lot of different disabilities that make it work for them. And so I say, yes, you can do it, and you should definitely try. I would say looking up different sports online. So whether that's wheelchair basketball, wheelchair racing, whether it's visually impaired goalball, or any kind of thing you maybe have heard about or are interested in, a Google search may tell you if there's programs near you. Unfortunately, one of the biggest issues we have is the lack of programs nationwide, but there are some, and they are a little bit better than they have been. So at least it's always nice to find a program near you to go in person if you can. But if you can't, a lot of times, looking them up on whether it's Facebook, Instagram, messaging people and saying, hey, I'm interested in this. Sometimes you land on a coach or someone who will be really, really excited to hear about you and to maybe reply with some ideas for you and some locations for you. It's a pretty small network, and so a lot of times people are really willing to share everything they know about whoever they know.
And then what if any parents are listening who might have a child living with a disability? It sounded like you were in a small town, but you were able to find a program. Any advice you might give to parents to help their children engage?
I think that's a great point, and I think still going back and looking around for people that exist, whether that's near you or not, and you can get in touch with someone who works in the sport and may have some ideas for you. Mm-hmm. I think that's really good background knowledge, but as a parent, really advocating for your child that while they're growing up, that they can integrate into school sports. So whether they are the only child who uses the chair at their school, and maybe the basketball team isn't what they're thinking of doing, but maybe wheelchair racing could be something. Finding maybe someone with background knowledge, or even myself, if you want to reach out on my Instagram or anything like that, just to get an idea of how you get those tools, how you get maybe some grants to purchase racing chairs. Or best yet, if we can find a program near you, sometimes there are program equipment that you can at least try out before you invest all of the money required to get a new chair. But then, even if you're like me, you're the only person on your track team that used a wheelchair, it was awesome. I was able to teach my classmates and training partners about wheelchair racing, and we still got to compete together. And so I think as a parent, like advocating for your child, like they can be active, they deserve to do sports, and there are resources available, and sometimes your child might be the only one at their school, but they can still thrive, and many of us had that experience growing up.
And one other thing I will mention, here on campus, actually my husband, I'll declare that item, but he has recently founded a center here on campus focused on adaptive sport. It's a rehabilitation engineering research center. It's called the Power of Play, and it's all focused on doing research and developing new types of adaptive equipment to really help a variety of different people engage in adaptive sports. So there'll be plenty of research studies going on where you'll have an opportunity to get exposed to this new type of equipment. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's really amazing, and I love that we have those opportunities here in this campus, this community, and hopefully they spread.
Yes.
Hopefully this is inspiring. Like hearing your story, Stan, I hope it inspires people at other places to get involved, people to compete, things like that. So before we close, unfortunately we do have to end the episode. I could talk for hours, but before we close, I do want to have an opportunity for you to just kind of shout yourself out a little bit. So my first question is, what medals did you get in Paris? We want to hear about those. And second, what's next for you?
Ooh, so I was really fortunate. I got a silver medal in the 5,000 meter, and then a bronze medal in the 800, and then a bronze medal in the 1,500, and then a bronze medal in the marathon while I was in Paris.
That's amazing.
Really
just
cool.
Just congratulations.
Thank
That's
you
fantastic.
so much. Thank you.
Now I'm sure you're going to just rest totally now and not do anything, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
You have nothing else on the so what's next for you coming up?
On Wednesday, I leave for the Berlin Marathon. So that, Paris Marathon 2, almost, I guess, a week and a half ago, was the start of the next Abbott World Marathon Major Series fall schedule. So Berlin, and then 2 weeks later, Chicago Marathon. And then next month, New York City Marathon. So
that's exciting.
Yeah, we have hit
much.
training hard. You never can predict my coach either, and so many of us were like, "Oh, this will probably be a light week," but it is very heavy volume week today, or this training cycle. We did 20 miles this morning, and that's usually longer than we go on our long day, so it's kind of exciting. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on your success and good luck
Thank you.
on the next stages on that.
Thank you.
But I just want to say thank you to you and Dr. Rice and Christina for coming in. We really appreciate having this conversation, the opportunity in the middle of your chaotic, busy schedule that you took time to talk to us today. So I really appreciate you all coming in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One of my favorite things about being at the University of Illinois is the number of opportunities that are here for so many students of so many backgrounds with so many focuses and things like that. And wheelchair racing and adaptive sports are another one here that I'm proud that we have. And so if you're listening and you have questions about it, please reach out to us here at Healthy Illini. Reach out to the wheelchair and scooter clinic. They can, even if they don't do what you're looking for, they can put you in contact with people who can get you where you need to go. If you want to reach out to Susanna, she's offered up that opportunity too. So take that, but ask the questions, because we're here to answer them. We want to help, and you don't know what you don't know. And so that first step is huge, and just take it, because you never know where you may end up. You never know where it may take you. It may not take you to Paris, but it may take you somewhere else. So I really encourage you to ask those questions. But thank you for joining us today. You're on a personal journey no matter where you are in it. You are important and you matter. Your health and wellness are important and matter, and we're here to keep you well to excel. So go have a great week, Illini. Let us know how you're doing, and we'll catch you next time on Healthy Illini.